Catholic commentary on today's liturgical gospel reading, Mark 6, verses 17 to 29, between the accounts of the apostles setting out on their mission and returning from it. Mark inserts an interlude, the sordid story of Herod's banquet and his execution of John the Baptist. The placement of this episode is by no means accidental. As Mark already hinted in I. 14, John's life is in a mysterious way patterned on that of Christ. His death foreshadows Jesus' death. The passion of John recounted here coincides with the first mission of the apostles, as the passion of Jesus will give birth to the church's mission, in which the gospel is proclaimed to the whole world. With this parallel, Mark suggests that John's self-offering shares, in a hidden way, in the spiritual fruitfulness of the sacrifice of Christ. Herod heard about the apostles' mission because Jesus' fame had become widespread. Like the seed that falls on the path, Herod's hearing of the word about Jesus will be fruitless, since it does not take root in him. The rumors circulating about Jesus, later repeated in 828, illustrate widespread spiritual confusion. Some people held that Jesus was a resurrected John the Baptist, a strange opinion since Jewish tradition accepted belief in a general resurrection at the end of the age, not in a dead individual returning to earth. The view that mighty powers are at work in him attributes paranormal or occult phenomena to Jesus, as if he is inhabited by good powers just as demoniacs are inhabited by evil ones. Others held that he was Elijah, not recognizing in Jesus the transcendent fulfillment of all that Elijah and John the Baptist had prophesied. Yet another opinion maintained that Jesus was a prophet like any of the prophets. Indeed he was, but not merely another of the Old Testament prophets. He was the definitive prophet promised by Moses, who would impart all that God wanted to reveal to his people. All these opinions remain fixated in the wise words and wondrous works done by Jesus, and fail to arrive at the person revealed through those words and deeds. Perhaps Herod, plagued with a guilty conscience for his execution of the innocent John, was susceptible to superstitious fears, and thus opted for the first opinion, that Jesus is actually John whom he beheaded. At this point, Mark gives his readers a flashback describing in detail how the Baptist met his demise. John had incurred the wrath of the ruling family by publicly denouncing their adulterous conduct. Herod had divorced his first wife to marry his brother's wife Herodias, and John boldly admonished them for this unlawful union. His baptism of repentance was no mere ritual. It was a call for the whole people to radically turn away from sin. John recognized that the behavior of political leaders had a powerful impact on the moral environment of the country at large. The Herodian scandal would dull the consciences of the people and put obstacles in the way of the straight path God was preparing for the Messiah. Like the prophets of old, John was willing to risk his life for his message. John's admonition earned him the bitter resentment of Herodias, who wanted to kill him. Herod, however, was ambivalent. He had a mild religious curiosity and liked to listen to John, but did not actually take his words seriously. To placate his wife, Herod had John arrested, but still listened to his preaching in fascination and perplexity. Ironically, the powerful ruler living in decadent luxury was afraid of the austere prophet from the desert. Herod's reaction to John was remarkably similar to that of King Ahab to John's predecessor Elijah many centuries before. Like John, Elijah had publicly rebuked the king for a sin urged on him by his wife, Queen Jezebel. Although Ahab gave Elijah a hearing, Jezebel furiously plotted to kill him. Unlike Jezebel, Herodias found the opportunity to destroy the man she hated. To celebrate his birthday, Herod invited his courtiers, military officers, and the leading men of Galilee, social elites, probably the Herodians mentioned in 3:6-12:13. It became a banquet of death, in contrast to the banquet of life Jesus had celebrated with the outcasts and repentant sinners of Galilee. Herodias' daughter Salome performed a dance, probably a seductive display that would have been highly unusual for a royal princess, but not implausible in an all-male party that doubtless included abundant alcohol. In an excess of delight, Herod attempted to impress his guests by making grandiose promises and even oaths to the young girl. Offering half his kingdom was merely an expression of extravagance. Herod, as a client of Rome, did not have power to subdivide his kingdom. Prompted by her mother, whom she seemed to take after, the girl made her gruesome request. "I want the head of John the Baptist." Her enthusiasm for this request is shown by her own additional touches, at once, on a platter, to guarantee that the macabre deed would be carried out before her stepfather had time to change his mind. Herod instantly realized the foolishness of his oaths, but valuing the admiration of his guests more than an innocent man's life, he acceded to the girl's request. The executioner, having efficiently carried out his orders, brought in the head on a platter, as if it were the next course in Herod's birthday banquet. When they heard what happened, the Baptist's disciples took his body and gave him an honorable burial, foreshadowing the proper burial given to Jesus. Reflection and Application 6:14-29. Readers might wonder why Mark has spent so much time on this chilling episode, the only sustained narrative in his gospel that is not directly about Jesus. Perhaps it is to highlight the passion of John as a foreshadowing of the passion of Christ. Herod's actions show the snowball effect of unchecked sin, a common biblical theme. From adultery, Herod progressed to debauchery and ultimately, via his rash oaths, to murder. Like Pilate later in the Gospel, Herod holds no malice toward his victim, yet cowardice and excessive concern for his own reputation lead him to bloodshed. Each player in the drama is complicit in the evil. His scheming wife, her lascivious daughter, the ruthlessly efficient executioner, and even Herod's dissipated guests, who raise no protest against the death of the innocent. Similarly, all the players in the Passion of Jesus, and by extension, all of sinful humanity, are complicit in the death of the Son of God. Jesus, like John, will meet his end because he confronts people with the hard but salutary truth about God's claim on our lives and the call to repentance that is the doorway to salvation. The success of the apostles' first mission, which immediately follows John's death, is a symbolic anticipation of the countless multitudes who will enter the kingdom as a fruit of the death of Christ and of the witness of Christian martyrs, who testify to the gospel at the cost of their lives. From the Gospel of Mark Catholic Commentary, here's today's actual gospel reading below. Mark 6 verses 17-29. Herod was the one who had John the Baptist arrested and bound in prison on account of Herodias, the wife of his brother Philip, whom he had married. John had said to Herod, "It is not lawful for you to have your brother's wife." Herodias harbored a grudge against him and wanted to kill him, but was unable to do so. Herod feared John, knowing him to be a righteous and holy man, and kept him in custody. When he heard him speak, he was very much perplexed. Yet he liked to listen to him. She had an opportunity one day when Herod, on his birthday, gave a banquet for his courtiers, his military officers, and the leading men of Galilee. Herodias' own daughter came in and performed a dance that delighted Herod and his guests. The king said to the girl, "Ask of me whatever you wish, and I will grant it to you." He even swore many things to her. "I will grant you whatever you ask of me, even to half of my kingdom." She went out and said to her mother, "What shall I ask for?" She replied, "The head of John the Baptist." The girl hurried back to the king's presence and made her request. "I want you to give me at once, on a platter, the head of John the Baptist." The king was deeply distressed, but because of his oaths and the guests, he did not wish to break his word to her. So he promptly dispatched an executioner with orders to bring back his head. He went off and beheaded him in the prison. He brought in the head on a platter and gave it to the girl. The girl in turn gave it to her mother. When his disciples heard about it, they came and took his body and laid it in a tomb. Psalm: I will praise your name forever, Lord. Blessed are those who are persecuted for the sake of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Alleluia, alleluia.